As we heard yesterday, that Bhagavad Gita is, though composed of 18 chapters, yet the 18th chapter itself contains the entire summary of Bhagavad Gita. And though in Bhagavad Gita we have learned karma, bhakti, jnana and dhyana, in this chapter all of them have been summarized. Yet Sri Krishna spends almost half the chapter in describing the various aspects of karma, like what is tyaga, what is sannyasa, and how is it related to our karma. And he clearly says tyaga is of three kinds: satvika tyaga, rajasic tyaga, and tamasic tyaga. Similarly, he goes on to talk about the various aspects of karma, and he says that 5 factors are there which make any karma or action happen. And all these 5 factors are the reason why any action can be undertaken, good or bad. However, the one who thinks he alone is the doer without acknowledging the importance of the other factors, such a person is truly not understanding how things work. These 5 factors he goes on to describe. And then these are adhishthanam, the place or the situation; karta, the doer; karanam, the instrument that have been used; cheshta, the very endeavor, the process of doing; and daivam, certain outer factors, external factors, on which also the karma depends. How good or how well you can do that karma. So those are the factors which are there. And then he goes on to say that each of these, whichever the karmas are there, they also have another 6 aspects. 3 are the propellers of the karma, and other 3 are the constituents of the karma. And the propellers of the karma are jnanam, jnayam, and jnata, parijnata. The knowledge itself, that which is to be known, and the knower of that knowledge. Similarly, there are 3 aspects of every action: karanam, karta, and karteti. Karanam are the instruments, like the senses or whatever we are employing to do the action; karma, the action itself; and karta, the one who is doing the action. And then from there he goes on to very clearly define only 3 aspects out of these 6. And if we carefully analyze, we see that every action can be changed, or the action's results can be changed by changing these 3 things. Out of the 6 things, these three things, if they've improved, the action and the result thereof will also be improved. And then he goes on to describe about these 3 things are jnanam, that is the knowledge of the action; the karma, the action itself; and karta, the doership or the doer of the action. So if these 3 things become better, actions will become better, the results of the action also will become better, because this is all about karma yoga. And Krishna goes on to describe each of them as again 3 kinds. There is a sattvika, rajasika, and tamasic aspect to all of these 3 things. And as we saw towards the end, what is the good jnanam, the knowledge or the understanding of any action? The one who sees oneness in multiplicity, such a person truly sees, such a person has sattvic jnana. He only tries to see the unity. Rajasic person sees things differently from each other, cannot see the oneness or unity. His mind is divided. And tamasic person is very narrow-minded. He holds on to some thought of his without any logic or reason, and come what may, does not change his opinion, does not even try to learn and understand if there are better things. So such a person cannot even be advised. He sticks on to his no logic and narrow-minded opinion about things. So such a knowledge is of no use. Then he goes on to say, even in the karma, we have different types of karma, those which are prescribed duties which have to be done as they are to be done, without any sense of doing a favor or doing any extra for anybody. It is just a part of my duty, my job. So without any desires for results, who do that, that is a sattvic karma. And those which are done with some desires, they're driven by ego or some kind of desire, and which feels like a burden. When you do it, you feel you are burdened by doing it. Those kind of karmas are rajasic karmas. And finally, those are tamasic karmas which lead us to bondage. And we do not think what will be the outcome, and we end up doing those things, which leads to destruction, violence, and even done out of impulse or overconfidence, because of which delusion takes over, and such a person performs this action under that delusion. So those actions are all tamasic actions. And he goes on to say the karta also, the doer also can be categorized as of three kinds. The first one is free from all attachments and no ego, anahamvadi. And he has yet, though he does not think he is the doer, he is detached from the action and the results, yet he is not losing the enthusiasm or the determination to perform the action. He still does it because that is how sattvic people do their actions. And siddha siddhayo nirvikaraha, whether there is a positive result or favorable result or not so favorable or positive result, he is not dependent on that to motivate him or her. The very thought of doing the action for the sake of action without attachments is the way sattvic person does the action. The rajasic person always is keeping an eye on the results, and if they are not favorable, he gets into anxiety and sorrow, and if they are good, he becomes happy and excited. So keep swinging between the two, and such a person also does it without thinking what will happen to others. He is violent and ashuchi, he is not clean in his dealings, in his thoughts, and is always attached to the results and quite greedy. For his greed, he is ready to destroy or hurt or harm others also for the sake of fulfilling his desires. And such a person is covered with, by harsha, that is excitement, and shoka, which is sorrow based on the type of results that he gets out of it. And tamasi person is how he is unsteady and incapable actually of doing any good work. Ayuktaha, uncultured, prakritaha, stabdaha, he is obstinate, very stubborn. Shataha, he is very deceitful, means he can cheat. Naishkritaha, he insults or he does not do things as to be done, and if anybody advises, he will insult him also. Alasaha, lazy and inertia. Then Vishadi, finds fault, he is always in a depressed mood. Whatever, nobody can encourage him and make him think positively. And Dirgha Sutri keeps postponing actions, does not want to do it then and there, but wants to keep it for another day. And such a person is a tamasic karta. So these are the three things, jnana and karma and karta. These are very important when we want to do actions properly in this world. The knowledge, why we want to do this action, what is our vision, what is our understanding of the action, why are we doing? We are doing it for the sake of doing our duty without attachment to the results or without having ego of doership. And the very karma itself should be done in such a way that we do not get attached to the results or we do not think we are going to benefit, therefore we should do. And if we are not the doers or we are not looking at the results, we should not lose enthusiasm. You don't get credit for it or you're not going to get credit for it, so you stop doing it. That's not the way. We must do it nevertheless. Whoever sees or not, God is watching us. And for that sake, we must do it. Similarly, our karta also should be the one who should not harm anybody in the process, should do it out of purity, should do it without any attachment, and should think of the consequences before doing it, not after doing it. So all these tamasic people, they go by their impulses and instincts. They don't think, they're just driven by instincts and impulses. So they do first and then think later. Whereas sattvic people think first and do later. So these people are those who think, what will be the result? Is it going to be good for everyone, good for me, good for the world? And will it be something that will please God? They will think like that and do actions. And Rajasic people, sometimes they think, sometimes they don't think. Generally, they end up thinking only while performing the action. They start off the action, then they realize, and then they're so attached to the action that even though they know it is not so good, they can't stop the action. They continue doing it because of their attachment to the action. You went wrong. Somebody tells you you're on the wrong road, but your ego does not permit you. Keep going like this, and in the process, you are troubling everybody along with you because their egos are very big. They cannot be told, change your ways. So they end up harming themselves, the institutions, everybody, the whole team, and ultimately the work also is not done properly. So these are the things which you have to be shunned. Basically, why Krishna is telling all these, we understood yesterday, to find out where the fault lies in our action. Why our action is leading us to ego, more attachment or misery. Why are we not being equanimous while performing the action? As I said always, the true test of one's way of performing the action correctly is before the action, during the action, and after the action, your state of the mind should remain the same. Getting anxious before starting the action, getting excited during the action, or getting depressed or happy based on the results of the action, that should not be the way our mind should function. Throughout the process, before the process and after the process, Our mind should always remain steady. How steady we are able to keep our mind, that is the true test of how much of karma yoga we have learned to do. Karma can be done, that swings you this way, that way. Karma yoga does not swing you. Yoga means some kind of a steadiness. How steady? If you are anchored to something, the boat is anchored, it is steady. If boat is not anchored, it will keep moving with the waves. So this anchoring is yoga. And Krishna says, the one who has no ego of doership, enjoyership, such a person, even if he does anything in the world, is not bound by it. He is always free. Always free. While that's why such a person alone can perform the actions without any excitement, anxiety, attachment, desires. He is always steady. Before, during and after the action, our mind is the same, peaceful and happy and steady. So this is how action should be performed. If you are not experiencing these things, then you have to find where the fault lies. Is it too much of doership, or your understanding of action itself is not right, or the jnanam, that is the knowledge of the action, the karma, the action itself, the process you are following, and the idea of I am the doer, because of me things are happening. Which are the things that you need to improve in order to make your actions better and remain in the same state of equanimity all through. That is how you must do it. Self-analysis must be done for your own sake, for your own benefit. Where is the question of you trying to improve somebody? You improve, the world improves. That is the idea. Then Krishna goes on to say, this is not enough. This is not enough. There are two things more which you need to know. One is buddhi and another is dhriti. Buddhi, we know, is intelligence, the discriminating thought, the ability to take decisions based on complete understanding of the situation, the reason and things like that. So that buddhi has to be there. Again, buddhi can be of three kinds, he says. And second is dhriti. Dhriti means the determination to do. People are very determined to do certain things, but what is the motivation for them to be determined? Why don't they give up? Ravana did not give up stealing Mother Sita, and even though his whole clan got destroyed, he is also having a lot of dhriti, no? But his buddhi is waste. So that is how we have to think. Both buddhi and dhriti are also required to do the action. Pay attention, because Krishna is leading us towards something. These are all, he's building a case for us, because ultimate reason why we perform action is purity of heart. That purity makes us realize divinity, steadies our mind. In that steady mind, divinity is revealed. So Krishna is only teaching us how to keep our mind steady and pure while we perform all the actions, so that we are able to realize our true self. And that is the ultimate purpose of all texts. But Bhagavad Gita, as I said, is a manual which tells us how to navigate our journey through life, so that at the end we reach the destination correctly, with least damage to anybody around us and no harm to ourselves too. 29th shloka, Shri Krishna says, Buddher bhedam dhriteshchaiva gunata strividham shunu. Three kinds are buddhi and dhriti. Buddhi is just, we generally say intellect, but it is the ability to discriminate and decide. And dhriti, the determination to do something. Many people are very good people. Buddhi is good. They have no willpower, no effort they put to convert their good ideas into actions. Such ideas are a waste. Nobility without ability, as I say. All knowledge without action is useless. All action without knowledge is dangerous. So these two are the combination. That's why it's so very clearly Krishna is saying that you must have good buddhi. And he says, Prochyamanam asheshena prataktvena dhananjaya. I will explain to you both separately, buddhi and dhriti. Now, completely, asheshena, with complete detail I am going to explain. Again, in few shlokas, he explains the difference between the two. We will quickly go through it. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha karya karye bhaya bhaye bandham moksham cha yaveti buddhi sa partha satviki. Again, satvika buddhi, pure and serene, sublime, divine buddhi. Which is the buddhi? Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha. What you must get involved in and what you must withdraw from. It understands it very correctly. It doesn't get influenced by other aspects. Oh, you will get more money, but you have to do something wrong. It's very clear. This is not the thing to be done. Because this is not good. This is not to be involved into. This is not to be participated in. So, pravritti and nivritti marga. That is what is preya and shreya marga. Remember, we have read in Kathopanishad. That which is pleasant is pravritti marga. That which is good is nivritti marga. So also pravritti means to engage, nivritti means to withdraw. So this person is very clear in his buddhi, what is right, what is wrong, what should be done, what should not. So he says pravrittim cha nivrittim cha karya akarye, what is permitted as an action by our scriptures, by the authorities, by the elders, by the societal or community rules and norms, that he is very clear about. This is to be done, this is not to be done. Karya, akarya. These are the two things. In the hostel we have certain rules. You are supposed to do this, you are not supposed to do the other things too. And the one who knows that this is how it should be, I should not kind of do the wrong things. Such a person's buddhi is very clear. And bhaya abhaye. Naturally, if you do good things, there is no question of bhaya. Why here when you don't make any mistake, there is no fear. Where there is mistake only, there is fear. So such a person also understand if you make a mistake, then you have to be afraid. If you don't make a mistake, there is no need of fear. So what actions will lead to fear, bhaya, and what will lead to abhaya, fearlessness? He knows the difference between the two very clearly. His buddhi knows. Bandham moksham chayaveti. Bandha, what will lead you to bondage? Bondage is more desires, more attachment. You fulfill one desire, one more will arise. That will bind you with more actions, more reactions. Bandham, moksham. What will help us withdraw and become free from this world and the attachments? Yaveti, that one which knows this, sa buddhi partha satviki. That buddhi is satvika buddhi partha. What are the things? Pravrittim, nivrittim means what you should engage in, what you should withdraw from. Karya, akarye, what is to be done, what should not be done. Bhaya, abhaye, what leads to fear, what does not lead to fear, in the sense what makes you fearless. Bandham moksham, what takes us to bondage, what helps us with liberation. These are the things this buddhi is clearly able to discriminate. It has no confusion over there. So all our education should help us develop this kind of buddhi. Buddhiman syat kritkitascha bharata, he says. Become buddhiman, develop such intellect, such intelligence, which will help you to discriminate correctly and decide correctly. So that your actions that follow after your decision are good actions. Will lead you to moksha, will lead you to liberation. And if our education system does not help us inculcate this pure buddhi, sattvika buddhi, education is a big waste. You think for yourself where all our decisions happen in buddhi only. Mind is attracted by various ideas and desires. But it consults buddhi. Buddhi, tell me whether you should do this or not. Buddhi will say, last time you did, those fingerprints of warden are still there on your cheek. Should you do it again once more? Let us not. But the idea is that buddhi remembers and buddhi consults one more aspect, chitta. Chitta is all our stored memory. So that memory suddenly flashes in front of your eyes. You know, that whole motion and how it landed and what was the silent, that what you call that echo in your ears. All that you remember suddenly. Then immediately buddhi says, this is what happened last time. Manas say, okay, let us not try this again. So this is how these things work. Physical action, karma happens by the karta. How the mana behind decides to do or not. But to mana, the guidance is given by buddhi, and buddhi depends on chitta, the memory. To understand if I have any reference of what happens after I perform this action. Oh, it makes me miserable. Last time something like this, it was miserable. Something like that made me happy. So accordingly it will discuss. So that is why buddhi is the very key. It's like algorithm, no, yes, no, it goes right. Buddhi is that. Yes, take this path. No, take another path. And then again it asks next question. Yes, no. Again the algorithm continues. So this process is of buddhi. Somebody's algorithm is corrupt and gone astray. All decision makings will be wrong. So this kind of buddhi you have to develop after all this education. If you can't choose between pravritti, nivritti, karya, bhaya, abhaya and bandha moksham, education is a sheer waste. The second type of people naturally are rajasic. So what Krishna says, yaya dharmam adharmam cha karyam cha akaryam eva cha ayathavat prajanati buddhi sa partha rajasi. See, dharma, adharma existing, karya also we know now. But what this fellow's problem is, Rajasi fellow, he understood it in a different way. He understands things differently than what he should understand. You know, sometimes somebody may say something to you and you should understand it correctly, but you understand it wrongly. In the sense you have your own opinion or your clouded buddhi is there, you have your own impression. Sometimes, we would have fought with somebody or we would have had an argument. Next time, even if the person is trying to give you good advice, your clouded mind, which it says that no, last time he was scolding me, how can he be a friend to me? So we are not ready to take advice from such people. We are not ready to be friends again. Many times, many things we understand in a different way. So ayathavat means it is not understood in the same way as it was intended. It is said between what is spoken and not heard, and what is heard and not spoken, much of confusion happens. Because you have spoken something, but the other person has heard something else. He understood as something else. And then the whole confusion happens. So this is the idea. One side there was a lorry that had to pass through the signal, and a phone came to the policeman there that this lorry has some kind of illegal material. So he sent a message, stop, not let go. And this understood, stop, not let go. The whole thing is reversed because it's understood wrongly. Now what is the action resulting out of misunderstanding or wrong understanding? Wrong action. Right understanding only will lead to right action, right? Wrong understanding will lead to wrong action. So understanding things as they are. Scriptures say, many people say, you are not the doer. You are not the doer is correct. But have you understood, experienced that? No. But simply you do something wrong and say, I am not the doer. Then what has to happen? Then we have to punish you and say, you are not the enjoyer also. So just accept this punishment as well. See, many people misuse these concepts also without having truly realized it. So that ayathavat, they understood it wrongly. Understand it wrongly, and then they perform wrong actions out of it. They cannot understand correctly. Then the third one is, you will think, this itself is quite a confusion. Third one is even worse. Third one is this person, adharmam dharmamiti. He understands dharma as adharma and adharma as dharma. This fellow does not understand which is dharma, which is adharma, slightly confused about it. But the other one is very clear. He always thinks it's the opposite. Don't go to that corner of the hostel. Teacher is saying, he'll exactly go to that corner of the hostel. Why? Because he always wants to do just the opposite. So dharma and adharma are things which he understands totally differently, in fact opposite. And because of his understanding is very clouded, his ignorance is so high, he's never put efforts to learn anything in life, so ulta. And sarvarthan viparintanscha, he understands everything in the opposite way only. Now if somebody even comes and plays, very good boy, he says, no, this fellow is being sarcastic only, I am not a good boy. He has his own understanding of himself. Or anybody tries to say anything positive, he'll only take negative out of it. He will never take it positively. Many people are like that. They keep finding how can it be, some agenda is there, something is wrong, something is negative behind whatever is being said to me. They always find fault. So these are the people who are so clouded. Tamasi buddhi these people have. So the question is that which is out of the three buddhis, only sattvic buddhi is capable of taking right decisions and understand the things as they are. Rajasic buddhi is understanding things in a vague way. It's not clear. See, when you are not clear, you better, I always say, when you are in doubt, stay out. Don't do anything. Till your doubt is cleared and you have clarity. Don't start off. But Rajasic people are compelled by so much of desires. Without fully understanding the process or the reason, they jump into action. And then suffer halfway through because they don't have correct understanding of things. And Tamasi buddhi, they'll just do the opposite thing. Whatever you tell, they'll understand it totally opposite and do something altogether ulta. So these are the people who are thinking. And worst part about the tamasic people are that they will have justification for whatever they do. Their buddhi has some crooked way of arguing and convincing the opposite party that why they are right and they are not wrong. Remember, tamasic people are like that. They will never agree they are wrong. So this fellow will do it wrong and then he will explain and try to convince the other person that this is what is right. And sometimes one reason they use is a majority of the people do this, so what is wrong in me doing it? These are very common excuse people use. They are all tamasic people only. Everybody does it. What's wrong if I do it? Hey, everybody does wrong. It doesn't mean that wrong will become right. Even one person does it right, it is right. So what if 99 do it wrong? But many people do that in the whole class. I tell you, in our many times public examination, a lot of this copying happens. See, help people, I say, but not inside the examination hall. Before examination hall, you can help. But tamasic fellow will what say? He wins the examination, he will nudge the next fellow and say, hey, help ever. So now help me. If you don't help me, then he will start giving justifications. You can't be my friend. How can you be a good fellow if you see somebody else in misery and pain like this? What will happen to my future? This, that. They'll give all kinds of excuse. And then they will make that other fellow also tamasi and make him do this thing. Then you have understood the very idea of helping in the opposite way. It was not supposed to be this way. So these are the people who simply, take it in the reverse way, or worse, sometimes they misunderstand and do another thing. Instead of one, they do another thing. And these are the people who are not capable of understanding anything. Once a wife was driving, on the road, and husband called up and said, the road on which you're driving, there is an announcement. I heard that one car is going in the opposite direction, on the road, against the rules of the road. She told her husband on the phone, not one car, so many cars are going in the opposite direction, in the wrong directions. So how they have understood their buddhi? I am wrong, that she is not recognizing. She is thinking the whole world is wrong, I am only right. So this is tamasi buddhi. So you cannot explain anything to them, they are like that.